I have questions, I have concerns, and I have concerning questions. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another one of my TV show reviews. Today we are talking about one of my favorite shows, The Dragon Prince, Season 5. And before we begin, here is your official spoiler warning. So a lot happens this season, but also not a lot at the same time. So instead of recapping every little detail that happens this season, I will be kind of going through each character one at a time and talking about how they fit into the plot as a whole and what I thought, and then giving a few of my general thoughts as well. So let's start off by talking about the animation. I've been a fan of the animation from the start. I've always advocated for it. I thought it's really cool to see a show almost look like a video game, and it continues to do that and continues to get better with each season. But I'm still having a major issue, which is the faces of the characters are just not that expressive, especially when you compare it to either The Last Airbender or Korra. They're all more expressive and more dynamic. There's one part of the season where Callum is essentially tied up as a prisoner and he's in pain, and it just doesn't really come across as very emotional on his face. And I was like, come on, I feel like animation is one of those mediums where you can go crazy with facial expressions, and they need to work on that for sure. So let's start off with our main protagonist, Callum. So this season, he kind of is dealing with his newfound leadership, continuing off of season 4. He is now the Archmage of Katalis, and it is really refreshing to see his conflict with Rayla essentially gone from last season, and he is completely trusting of Rayla even when she was like sneaking around the castle. Also, he definitely gets a power boost this season. He learns new spells, and he even learns a new ocean arcanum. So now I'm like, is he gonna be basically Aang, because he starts off with air and then he gets water, and then is he gonna get other elements too? And also, there's a big question of, will Callum use dark magic again? And it's hinted at the season when he is in a dire situation with Finnegan. We think that he freed himself with, his primal magic, but then we still see some remnants of dark magic linger on in the ship. And also, we need Aaravos to control Callum somehow. I think he's definitely going to get involved with dark magic again. Let's talk about Rayla. She starts off the season with the dilemma of, should she go help her family or should she save the world? And obviously she decides to accompany Callum and the rest of the gang to save the world. So that means we'll have to see this plot play out later on. Also, it's really nice to see Rayla overcoming her fear of water, which is nice character development for her. Also, now we're kind of openly dealing with her and Callum's budding romance, which, if I'm being honest, I'm kind of over. I don't know if it's just because it's been so many seasons where they're trying to play this will they won't they thing. I could honestly be satisfied if they just stay friends. Let's talk about Claudia. She is definitely top 3 characters. She is going down a very dark, dangerous path, and she has one of the most clear motivations in the show because she is trying to be a good daughter, and she seems to be the only one who cares about her father, at least is what she thinks in her head, and she's trying to save her father's life before he dies again. But the question for her is she too far gone for redemption? And I don't know, I think we'll have to keep seeing just how deep she goes with her dark magic. And we do see that she pays for it at the end of the season. Let's talk about Viren. I think he's also one of the best characters, especially this season, because we deal a lot with his internal thoughts and trauma, and he gets to do a lot of self-reflecting. His nightmares are probably some of the best visuals we've gotten so far in the whole show, just because we can add a layer of horror and creativity that we haven't gotten anywhere else, especially when he was talking to the mirror, to his younger self, about is there even such a thing as free will. And by the end of the season, he realizes that he's dragging Claudia to the dark side, and he's essentially abandoned Soren, and he's been a terrible father. Also, in his visions, we actually get to see a little bit of his backstory, where he learned his magic from his teacher. So maybe once we keep going, we'll see more about his backstory and learn just where Viren came from and where he learned all of this powerful dark magic. Let's talk about Terry. So Terry was a new character introduced last season, and he is Claudia's boyfriend. And that's kind of all he is that he's a really good boyfriend. I mean, Claudia would not have made it without Terry, so good for him. All right, Ezra. Really disappointing for Ezra this season. I love Ezra, and he's obviously one of the core members, and he is now the king of Katalis. And so we kind of explore what it's like for this little kid to lose his innocence so young and have to deal with these responsibilities. But it's kind of wasted potential because Ezra doesn't get to do a lot this season. We essentially just completely forget about the kingdom of Katalis. We begin there, we never go back, and we never really see what happens in Katalis. So it's like, who is running Katalis right now? So the most important thing he did this season was get in contact with all of the dragons of Zadia and get information from the ocean dragon. And same thing with Soren, actually. I love Soren overall, but he doesn't get that much to do this season. And his humor is starting to give me the ick. Like, most of his comedic relief moments was,
oh, look at my muscles. You gotta work out, man.
and I don't know, I feel like he was just there to make dumb jokes and he didn't really get to develop that much as a character, which was really disappointing. And lastly, for the characters, I want to talk about Janai and Amaya. Truly a power couple. They really had to just separate them this season because together they would just be too powerful and they could take down pretty much any force. And I love them for that. They are still one of the coolest side characters ever, but my problem is, how are they going to resolve the Lux Aurea plotline and mix it together with the overarching mystery of Aaravos? I'm really hoping they get this right because the Lux Aurea political conflict is really interesting, but it just feels so separate. But I'm putting my faith in the creators because they're already setting up some kind of connection with Aaravos with Janai's nightmares. All right, now we can't talk about the Dragon Prince without mentioning all of the magical creatures and animals. So again, this season shows just how important these creatures are. In fact, sometimes they're more important than the human characters, and a lot of times they drive the plot. It's either Bait needs to get saved or Zubeia comes in and saves the day. So they always play a huge part. So good job on that. I still do think Rayla's pet lemur thing with the portal ability is kind of random. Like, I keep forgetting that he's around, but he's a very useful pet to have because you basically just have an infinite pocket. Also, a couple of new creatures that we saw this season included the ocean dragon and the giant hermit crab that was also a ship. Those were awesome concepts. Also, I do have to wonder, what are they going to do with the baby glow toads moving forward since they were so important this season? Also, shout out to the purple pentapus, which of course is a callback to Avatar when the characters got pentapox. And really quick, I wanted to just mention the new villains that we got this season. So Janai had to deal with the new threat that is the blood elf, and that was so creative. She was basically like the Nightcrawler, but evil, and I think she will be a huge threat moving forward. Also, Finnegrin was a nice welcome to just see someone so cruel and so powerful, but we spent so much time with him this season and then he just gets killed off. So I'm really hoping that he didn't actually die because it feels like wasted potential introducing him. All right, let's talk about the ending. I cannot believe Miana betrayed Janai. That made me so mad, but we all saw it coming. I mean, they've been setting that up, but I think she's going to realize how big of a mistake she made because she's gonna screw over her entire people. For what, Kareem, who is probably just manipulating her at this point. And then we see Zubeia trying to fly, and then she is just too weak because of her corruption that's happening. And then we are introduced to this mushroom mage character who it seems like he is able to cure the corruption, which is going to be huge moving forward for Lux Aurea because they don't know how to cure the corruption, so they haven't moved back to Lux Aurea. So I am definitely curious to see where that plotline goes. We see that Claudia actually lost this season. In fact, she lost a literal leg. I feel bad for her, but she's got to take responsibility for the decisions that she's made at this point. And the big question at the end is,
will Viren survive?
And let's be honest, Viren's gonna come back next season. He's just too big of a character, too important to let him go now, especially because there's still 2 more seasons left. So now let's talk about my concerns. my worries. The show has still not fixed their biggest complaint throughout all 5 seasons so far, and it's their release strategy. 9 episodes and basically 25 minutes per episode. It's just not enough time, especially because this series has way more characters than Avatar, and each season essentially feels like a third of what happens in a regular season of Avatar. And waiting at least a year in between each seasons makes it really hard to keep up, and I'm worried that the fan base is going to become disinterested and just abandon the series. Again, like, this season didn't feel like much happened, and the pacing of this season was also weird in itself because we spent the first half trying to find the solution of how to kill a Star Touch elf. But then we spend the second half of the season completely forgetting about that idea and then dealing with Finnegan, and then they somehow find Claudia and Viren even though they didn't have the location or the map to the prison. So I'm kind of annoyed because we spent the entire first half of the season watching things that are not going to have a payoff at the end of the season, but rather we have to wait until the next season when it will probably happen, but maybe not even. Now, I don't think they're going to fix this issue, but I think a good solution is to add maybe 10 more minutes to each episode, and at best add like 3 more episodes to the season, because I really don't want them to rush the plot and not develop all the characters and give them the correct storylines. So I'm really hoping when everything is done, when all 7 seasons are released, that once we binge the whole thing, it'll actually make sense and it'll be an amazing series by then. But for now, it's really frustrating. Another concern of mine about Dragon Prince is that they set up this amazing world of Katalis and Zadia, yet I don't know where they're located at any given moment. I wish they would maybe introduce a map of the world like they did in Avatar, because I just don't get a great sense of the scale of the world. It feels small, yet it's supposed to be big at the same time. And my biggest concern so far is that we are halfway through the Mystery of Aaravos, which is 4 seasons, and we have learned virtually nothing about the mystery of Aaravos, and Aaravos barely got any screen time this season. Like, I want to know why he's so powerful, what his motivations are, maybe some of his backstory, but we've gotten virtually nothing. I guess we'll just have to wait. So trying to rate this season overall, I'm conflicted because I don't know the bigger story yet, so I don't know how it'll place in terms of everything, but a standalone season, it just doesn't work that well in terms of pacing, in terms of plot. So I think I'm going to have to give this season a 6 out of 10. So what did you guys think of the Dragon Prince Season 5? Are you guys also disappointed by the Mystery of Aaravos so far? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you guys want to see more of my content, then make sure you subscribe. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone.